demonia. Use my fangs to murder ya. Yo soy la diosa, los demonios no me controlan. Soy culebra.
What's up, everyone? This is 7 Octoberz. Welcome to Nightmare on Sedgwick Avenue podcast. This is season 5. Season 4 just ended like a few weeks ago, and we're back at it again. Today, I wanted to bring on a really dope guest. She's a writer, director, filmmaker, actress, aka Final Girl, and she's New York based. If I'm not mistaken, she'll correct me once I get her on the screen. But her name is Kristin Noriega. And we're going to discuss her short film, When You're Gone, and just get to know her a little bit more. So without further ado, let me bring her on the screen here. Hey, Kristin.
Hi, how's it going, Gabby?
Good. Thank you for being on here, and, taking time out of your day to, for us to get to know you a little bit more.
Of course. And ditto. Exactly the same. Thank you.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm really excited to talk to you. I had seen a couple of your promos for your short film When You're Gone, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But you are New York based, right? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, I'm in New York City. Mm-hmm.
Are you born and raised, or where are you originally from?
Yeah, I was born here in New York City, but I grew up in Syracuse, which is way further north, up in the actual state of Syracuse.
Yeah.
I've been back down here in New York City. This will be my 13th year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow. How do you? Yeah. How is it? Because I'm over here in San Diego. I've only been to New York once, but I only went to Niagara Falls for I think a week. But
I've never been. To go. It's gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I love it. It's definitely kind of a love-hate relationship. It's a tough way of living, but I'm addicted. I love it.
Yeah.
My brother's in San Diego, and I got to visit him for the first time as soon as my short wrapped filming.
Oh, I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was so nice. I loved it. And the food, my God, San Diego's dope. I loved it.
Yeah. Was it your first time, or you visited him before?
Yeah, that was my first time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
First time to California, actually.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's cool. And to get to know you a little bit better, so how did you get into filmmaking and just cinema overall? How did you get your foot in the door? Where did you even start?
Sure. I had wanted to go to film school from high school, but my parents were not so supportive in that. They thought it was like a trade school. They didn't want me to do that. So I was like, all right, cool. So I ended up going to school for journalism instead, because I felt like that was kind of along the lines of screenwriting. But I didn't do so great with core curriculum in terms of anything that wasn't journalism class. I didn't want anything to do with, and it just kind of didn't work out. I went into kind of a deep depression. Actually, I had dealt with that since high school, but it got way worse then. Came back home, started at a school here. But what happened then is I had all these friends. I had all these friends in film school at School of Visual Arts in New York City.
Okay.
And so they would cast me in their projects, and I would also work sound on their projects, be PA on their projects, drive the U-Haul truck for them, just anything I could do to be on their sets. And simultaneously, while I was in, college, going to school for now political science, but I got involved with the theater department. And made it a point to, again, assistant stage managing, costumes, wigs, acting, anything I could do to be a part of that theater department, I was there.
Yeah.
And I guess it was one of the performances. I had a lead role in one of our shows in college, and there was one night where I was giving my monologue, and I just had this come to God moment, I guess, of this is it. This is that feeling I'm going to chase the rest of my life, is this, acting gave me a sense of accomplishment and focus and drive that just nothing else did. So yeah, that was kind of set me on that path of that's it. I'm going to do acting. This is what I'm going to do. And eventually ended up in New York City a couple of years later, after doing some touring theater in the Midwest. And, I think what a lot of actors do when they first get to New York City is there's all of this background work, right? It's a rite of passage to be on Law and Order, SVU, or I think Nurse Jackie was shooting during that time. All of those things. And I don't know, 13 years later, I I don't know. I kind of just decided, I got it in my head I was gonna make a thing because especially over these past, I guess, 5 years, I've been working with the same kind of like crew as an
Okay.
actor again and again and again, and I just adored them, and we had this just shorthand, I guess, with one another. That by the time I decided to write a script, I knew that those were going to be the people that were gonna we're gonna work on it. We're gonna make it happen. And I made the decision then to just dive in and direct.
Yeah.
um, and it worked out. I had such an amazing team behind me, and we had worked together so many times before that it just clicked.
Yeah.
And so that's this short that you're referring to.
Yeah.
I'm kind of traveling around with at different festivals right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, I think the long and short of it is just like just get your hands on, just get involved. You don't necessarily have to go to film school, but just like
Yeah.
make a thing if you want to, with your phone, like whatever element of storytelling you can get your hands on, just like do it.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. And where did your love, like, is anybody in your family like in the arts or creative, or where did your love for film, like, how did you fall in love with movies in the first place?
I think it's from when I was little. My mom, it was just her and I for a minute, and we
Mm-hmm.
lived with my grandma. So when
Yeah.
my mom was at school or work, grandma had HBO.
Yeah.
And like I saw so many things I shouldn't have, like, oh my God, like Attack of the Killer Clowns, Nightmare on Elm Street, like 1 through 5, like every single Freddy movie that there was, I saw. Legend was a big one, kind of dating myself on that, but and my grandmother was also a Disney buff. Like she had every
Okay.
possible Disney movie that there was. And so I spent a lot of my time as a 4 and a 5 year old, watching horror movies and watching Disney movies. And I think that that just kind of translated somehow that I wanted
Yeah.
to get into storytelling. I don't have any other like creatives per se in my
Mm-hmm.
family. They're all like first responders, like law enforcement, nurses,
Yeah.
firefighters.
Yeah.
I took acting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool though. Yeah, I have that in common with you because my abuelita too. She was like one of the reasons why I fell in love with horror, which she was like super Catholic, but she would tell us like like legends and stuff like that of like Mexico and stuff like that. So it kind of you grow with that stuff. So it kind of makes you who you are. So it's kind of cool
Yeah.
that you have that same like upbringing.
Mhm.
Um, and for you, what made you fall in love specifically? Obviously, you just mentioned that you watched like horror movies as a kid, but what else made you fall in love with like the horror genre? Like, what made you like so, I don't know, like entertained by it or loved it?
It's like now that I'm older, I understand why, but I don't really know why as a kid, other than that
Yeah,
it was like just so engrossing, like
yeah,
sucked you right in. It's like I listened to your interview with Jonathan Barkan,
hmm,
and he said, I don't watch horror movies to watch people die. I watch horror movies to watch people try to survive. And
yes,
it just so resonated with me. I was like, that's exactly what it is, and those are the stories that I like to tell as an actor as well. I'm just so drawn to it, I
yeah.
guess. It's the only way I can really explain it.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, and I think I saw on your, I think I am DB where it said that you try to make films that is about like escaping, right, or like escaping something, which is like something we all can relate to.
Yeah,
Um,
sure. 100%.
Yeah. And what would be your favorite like subgenre? Because we'll get into When You're Gone, but that one's kind of more like a creature feature, I guess you can call it. But what would be your favorite like horror subgenre and why?
Uh, I'm tempted to say body horror because I love it so much, and the more
Yeah.
realistic it looks, I'm just like, oh, how'd they do it, from a filmmaking point of view. But
Yeah.
I think cosmic horror is I know cosmic horror is my favorite. It's just, I guess you could also call it Lovecraftian. But
Mm-hmm.
it's that whole like the insignificance of humanity, and as we make these new discoveries that we can't handle, so it can drive us insane. Think about movies like Event Horizon or Annihilation, um, The Mist. I don't know, I'm really drawn to that kind of horror for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with those. Those are some of my favorites too. And body horror, I was just talking about with someone about David Cronenberg, like and how he like kind of like spread it to his son now. And like,
Yeah,
I don't know if you
right.
see, yeah, right? Like, have you seen the new trailer for Infinity Pool by Brandon Cronenberg? I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
it
my
looks
God, it
good.
looks insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
and to get into a little bit about your film when you're gone. So, if you want to like share a little bit like of the premise for those who who haven't seen like the trailer, but if you can explain it a little bit.
Sure, yeah. It's about a writer. Her name is Jessie Cordova. She lives in New York City, but she's not writing. She's kind of just partying and bartending. And she finds out that her boyfriend's cheating on her, and that sends her kind of in a self-destructive spiral, which is where we meet her. Um, but this distracts her from this invasion of this mutant reptile ecosystem that's coming up from the sewers of New York City. And one of them ends up taking her hostage. And so she's got to deal with that.
Yeah, yeah, and it was really good. I watched it. Thank you for sending me the link.
Watching, yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. I liked it. Kind of brought me back to like nostalgia, like those creature features like back in I think it was like the 90s maybe or 80s where it was like alligator or crocodile where it was like they were in the sewers, like and
Yeah.
then later on it was like the either radiation or what it was like it would make them like all like huge and then they would go on a killing spree. But I liked how you mixed it with like real life situation, which is like kind of like going through like a heartbreak and also like getting cheated on. And it's kind of like also like grieve because you kind of grieve a relationship, right? When you break up or when you lose that trust with someone. So I liked how you kind of made that into also like an underlying message with the film besides being like a horror film. So it was kind of cool. How did you like come up with that or the writing of that film or short film?
Um, I was in a really dark place as an actor. I just felt like I've been doing this for so long now and it's not happening. And I guess I had that kind of time to daydream and stare at the ceiling and not get out of bed, all those things that you do when you're depressed, right?
Yeah.
I just got this image stuck in my head somehow of this person who's so wrapped up in their depression and indifference to life that this monster has like cocooned them, and
Yeah.
they don't notice. And when they do notice, they don't care. Um, and I guess I couldn't get away from that image. And I had this thought of like, I'm just going to write my own script in a role that I know I would kick ass at so that I can showcase the acting, and also simultaneously make a movie that I would want to see.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's how that kind of came about. Um, and I tied it in with just one of the most painful times in my life.
Yeah.
We all have heartbreak in whatever form it may take, but so those just kind of merged together within that story.
Yeah, that's really cool. And how do you guys do like the special effects? Because it was pretty cool, like the monster, and then like when you were like cocooned on it, and then like when he bites on your like over here, down here, like in your ankle, whatever. I was like, oh my god! But how did they do all that? How did you guys do all that stuff?
We were having a hard time finding a makeup artist
Mm-hmm.
for months because we were asking so much, and I knew that we were, and
Yeah.
we just didn't have that kind of money. So, there were plenty of makeup artists who just couldn't afford to work with the money that we had, which I totally understood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I reached out to Shane Morton.
Mm-hmm.
He made the Cheddar Goblin and Mandy, and he
Oh,
worked on
okay.
the makeup on Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell,
Okay.
which is an awesome show. I reached out to him because I thought maybe he'll know somebody that wants to cut their teeth on showing off what they can do and can work within our budget.
Yeah.
Uh, and he actually was like, "Well, I'll do it."
Oh wow.
um, yeah, and he's like really into Godzilla, so I think that was part of
Oh yeah,
the
you could see the
appeal.
inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah. But he basically, he's starting his own studio, so he can take all of these pieces. He called it kit bashing. So
Okay.
he had all these reptilian pieces already that he
Yeah.
just kind of repurposed together for our big monster.
Yeah.
Um, and he came all the way from Atlanta.
Oh
He
wow.
brought an actor with him who's also works on the special effects, who like got into the suit and did all the monster movement, and that's such a specific skill. You don't really think about it, but
Yeah.
those anybody who plays a monster in a movie, there's an art to it, and the
Yeah.
people are really good at it. Like it's amazing. Yeah, and he brought pieces we needed for the cocoon, and I couldn't believe it. I remember when I got off the phone with him, I like I got on my knees and I kissed the kitchen floor because I was just like, I couldn't believe it came
Yeah.
together like that. It was just and I was working with somebody that he's just awesome. Like he's the
Yeah.
best in the terms of special
Special effects.
effects, practical effects especially.
Yeah, yeah, and I saw it. I was like, "Oh my God, this looks really good!" Like for it to be like a short film, like the quality was like really good. I was like, "Oh my God," like the way they did it. I was like, "I wonder." And I was gonna ask you, I was like, "How did you guys do that?" Because I'm like, it looked like that old school, like I love like The Thing or stuff like that, like the
Yeah, yeah,
practical
yeah.
effects. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's
Um.
all about that too. He's like old
Yeah.
school, like everything should be practical. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know about the actor because I assumed it was maybe like animatronic or something. Like I didn't think it would be like somebody in the suit, you know?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
hmm
And you said obviously you just kind of jumped into this like directing it because you were mainly acting. But how did it feel like going from acting to directing? Like was it hard to do? Like what did you have to learn a couple things, or did you already know some of the things because of going to like partially film school and all your friends that were part of film school?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because I'm such an over preparer
Yeah,
when it comes to everything, even like storyboarding and just all of these, I love making like mood boards and stuff like that.
yeah,
So I had so much that I brought to the people I was asking to be like my cinematographer, my producer, my art department. And they were just like, wow, like you're really prepared. And I was like, well, yeah, I don't know how you could not be if you're making a thing. But so that was really encouraging to me because I'm still very self-conscious about it, but the fact that I don't have that like technical education, you know what I mean? I
yeah,
don't work with cameras before. I don't know lighting. Not to say that I can't still pursue that education, but it's just not my area. So
yeah,
obviously hire the folks that know what they're doing, which is what I did, and I kind of understood from the get-go that it was a collaboration, which it absolutely was. And I don't know, I was like, I was just in awe. My cinematographer, I told him what I wanted it to look like, and he just like amazing, like did it and knew exactly what I was talking about. And he,
yeah,
obviously came up with some of his own shots too. He was just so on board and brings so much to the table. My producer finding an apartment that looked like a New York City studio apartment, but it's in Albany
oh
because
wow.
it's so much cheaper to shoot up there.
Yeah,
But again, like, I walked into the room and I was just like, this is exactly what I pictured in my head. And he's like, well, yeah, that's my job. But I was like, yes, it's a job, but it's just everything just came together. So it gave me the confidence that I needed. And also I loved it. I loved directing. So
yeah.
that's not going to be the last project that I direct for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And what do you want to accomplish with this film? Like, I know it's like one of your first ones, but like, do you have like a vision or?
I mean, I do have a feature length script. It'd be dope if somebody was like, oh yeah, and could find a way to find us funding for the feature length.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, I made it to showcase my acting and to try and get representation as an actor. So I mean, yeah, hopefully that's what it's able to do.
yeah,
But it's already done so much more for me than that in terms of going to the festivals and meeting these filmmakers, especially the genre film festivals where there's no ego, there's no bullshit. Everyone's just like
yeah,
cool. I want to
yeah,
talk about different like recipes for blood and like how did you, get that shot of that person, being eaten, alive. Like it's been such a blast, like going
yeah.
to these festivals and meeting folks. So I'm looking
That's
forward to more of that.
that's cool. And what do you prefer right now? Now that you've done a little bit of everything, like acting, writing, and producing and directing. Like, what would be your favorite, or do you like them all equally the same?
I like them all. Writing is the most difficult. Uh it definitely like as an actor you're speaking somebody else's words, right? But as a writer you're like it's you on that page.
Yeah.
And also I just kind of lack the discipline that it takes to, like, write on a schedule. Like if I don't have a deadline, I'm useless. So writing is most difficult.
Yeah.
um I don't know, I'd still say I'm partial to acting, if only because that's where most of my experience is.
Yeah.
um yeah, I guess acting, it would go like acting, directing, writing in that order.
Okay. And then I know, like in the short film, it has like she's like a kind of like a writer too, right? Because it has like she has like a script there, like it's called like Lambs Get Slaughtered. Is that like a
Yeah,
potential like film that you might make, or like?
I don't know. Like years and years ago, I started a novel that was tentatively called Lamb with that premise. But
Uh-huh.
so I don't know. I liked the idea that it was a manuscript called Lambs Get Slaughtered because that's so her character,
Yeah, it's like a
That's
foreshadow a little bit, right?
yeah. But I thought I love shit where it's like you see somebody's second or third movie and there's like something from the first
Yeah.
movie that all ties that universe together. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could see moving forward with that title in some weird way on some
Yeah.
other project.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, that's a cool like name for a movie.
Mhm.
um and kind of moving on a little bit about back to like films and stuff like that, like obviously horror, one of the main things is like fear. It plays on our fears. Like for you, what's like your greatest fear, and have you overcome it, or do you want to overcome it?
My greatest fear is open water.
Oh yeah,
Um,
same here.
yeah, like even like being in like a pool that's 10 feet or like whatever amount of feet under you where it's just
You
this
can't
expanse.
touch the floor.
Yeah. Oh, ugh, like, but I don't know. I always thought about what if I were to get cast in something. There's so many of them too, right? That are like shot on open water. Like,
Yeah.
I guess it'd be the ultimate exposure therapy, and like I wouldn't have to do that much acting. But yeah, that's definitely my biggest fear. So yeah, shark movies are definitely up my alley in terms of like watching. I
Yeah.
think about there's 47 meters down, but there's a sequel to it.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know if you've seen
Yes.
where it's all shot like underwater and it's multiple
Bitch.
actors, and I'm just
Yeah.
so blown away by how they did that. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's one of my fears too. I don't know how to swim anyways, but like even if I did, like it scares me, like the fact that like it's the ocean is like one of the biggest things in the world, and it's like it's you haven't figured out what's in there at all. So there's so
They
many
keep
things.
finding the
Yeah.
craziest shit in there,
Yeah.
that's so alien and like what? Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I know. I live in California. Like San Diego, obviously you've seen like the beaches, but I'm like I barely even go because I'm like if I do, it's just like dip like one of my feet and that's it. Like I'm not going all the way in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and for you, because you're Italian and Mexican, right? Or like
Hmm.
mixed.
Yeah.
Um, for you, like just to bring it up as far as like representation in film, like what do you feel that how we're represented a little bit better nowadays, or do you still feel like there's room for growth, and like how do you yourself would like to be part of have helping being more represented in films now that you're like also directing and stuff like that?
Yeah. Um, it's incredibly encouraging, I think, where we're at right now in terms of representation, I think across the board.
Yeah.
No matter what the race or sexual orientation,
Hmm.
gender identification, it's good. I think we're starting to go in the right direction. Um, and it's just it means a lot to me to continue to see those stories told that we just don't see, like different stories, different upbringings than our own, different backgrounds than our own, and that translates not only to in front of the camera but
Behind.
behind. I think that's where things are still really missing, right?
Yeah.
It's like executive producers and directors, writers. It's starting, the tide is starting to change, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say it's encouraging, but like we can't stop moving, we can't stop the momentum, we got to keep it going.
Yeah, I agree. And for you, who's like some of your favorite horror directors that you like look up to?
I adore Issa Lopez. I don't know if you've seen Tigers Are Not Afraid.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can't I can't watch that movie without just like weeping openly. But I just she's amazing. She's incredibly
Yeah.
inspiring. When I listen to interviews with her, like she's been in the game like so long, and she's just now starting to get that recognition.
Yeah.
Um, so that's huge. Gigi Sao Guerrero,
Oh yeah, she's
she's
awesome.
incredible, and I just love like seeing how she just keeps, going, doing
Yeah.
like just more and more. Like she's very inspiring, and like I think of like little Kristin and like how um, inspiring, especially even then it would have been. I would have wanted like a Gigi action figure, like
Yeah.
so those are two of the big ones.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, because I think yeah, growing up, we didn't really have a lot of that, so it's cool to see it like now, like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
these up and coming, and like I said, like Isa Lopez has been doing it for a long time, so and now she's getting the recognition she deserves. But
Yeah.
as far as like for you, what advice would you give someone who's trying to get into like filmmaking, or just maybe just in the film business? I guess you can say like, what piece of advice would you give them?
Start where you can. Um, in every community, I would think that there are other folks who have those same interests as you. Um, who, I mean, everybody can use an extra hand on a film set, right? So if you can find a way to get involved, like I said, if you can be a PA to start, like just kind of get involved. If you're wanting to write something, write it, like by all means, just like whatever you feel that little voice is like, oh, I really would like to do that. Just like don't be afraid, and people are gonna tell you that you shouldn't, or it's like crazy or whatever. But just know that that's gonna happen and push through it anyway. I mean, I had people very close to me, who they meant well, but like while I was trying to raise money for this short that I did, they're like, "Are you $25,000? Like, are you sure? Like 25?" I was like, "Yeah, like that's the amount that I need to put this on screen. If I don't get there, I'll spend every day until I do, or I'll scale back the script to bring it to the money that we have." But like, I just, I know they meant well, but it's
Yeah.
like, so you gotta just push through that. I'd say if you're feeling that pull, just like lean into it however you can.
Yeah.
Facebook is a great way to find folks in that way. Hmm.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, because I think yeah, you have like those friends that are like trying to like look out for you, but at the same time they kind of like end up kind of making you feel like self doubt, right? Already where you're already like trying to motivate yourself to do it. Um,
Yeah.
and for you, what would you say was the hardest part of like making a film, and the easiest or the most enjoyable part? You can say.
Hmm. The hardest part is there's a lack of control. Uh there's always problem solving on sets, but like even within the post production, once it's been shot, like it's in someone else's hands, and it's going to take the time that it takes. So that was really hard for me, because I had this feeling of like we did a thing, we made a thing, but like did I accomplish anything, because I had to wait all that time. So I don't know, I'm very impatient when it comes to that. So that's something I learned about myself. And of course everything came together fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the easiest part for me was the preparation, in terms of, like I said, making all those mood boards. Like it's essentially, I didn't realize what I was making, but it was a pitch deck.
Hmm.
When you look at it that way, it's like, oh, that's easy. You're just like the mood of the film, the look of the film, like what is it comparable to, those kinds of things. That came very easy to me. I felt like that was the easiest part.
Okay, that's cool. That's good to know because I'm trying to get into filmmaking, but I'm like trying to like motivate myself because I'm I'm the same kind of as you. Like I don't have any like schooling of film, but I love film. It's like I think Quentin Tarantino is like all you have to do is watch movies and make films or something like that. I forget what his quote is, but something along those lines.
Yeah.
Um,
A
uh,
buddy of mine had told me, I don't know if he learned it in film school or just did it, but some of your favorite movies, cinematography,
huh.
like watch them on mute so that you're just seeing the storytelling visually, which I always thought like
Okay.
was incredibly helpful and a lot of
Yeah.
fun too.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to do that then.
Yeah.
Um, and for you talking about like movies and stuff like that, like do you enjoy more like preferably at least in the horror genre, do you prefer like the originals or do you prefer like remakes? Like what do you think as far as, because nowadays is like there's a lot of new original ideas, films that we haven't seen, but then there's a lot of like reboots, remakes. Like what do you prefer, or do you like either or?
It's tough. I mean, sometimes I am of that mindset that's just like, do we really do we need that remake? You know, they did it so well the first time and it was such a like why?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how much heart is in it, maybe. Like if it's just
Yeah.
being done to make money,
Mm-hmm.
that shows on screen and that reflects. But it's funny that you mentioned that because one of my like top probably my top five is the Evil Dead 2013
Oh
reboot.
yeah.
Kind of blasphemous, right? Because it is like you're talking about, it's a remake. But like, nothing against the original. Like, obviously, I love that movie too. But
Yeah.
I just every time I put on that Evil Dead Fede Alvarez version,
Yes.
I
Uh,
just it's such joy, you know, like from the very top to bottom. It's so good. I love it. Um,
yeah. No, I
I guess if
agree.
it's done with the right intention, you know, and if you're bringing something new to it, you know, like why tell this story now? What's happening now that, you know, wasn't then that we can incorporate and turn into something, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because yeah, I've seen like you said, Evil Dead is like a good remake. I actually have like I don't know if you saw my post, but here, let me grab it. You'll appreciate it. It's I got it from Legion 3D, but it's like the Mia from from Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I really love that film. But yeah, there's been remakes. I mean, kind of like Halloween is one of them where it's like it's been done so many times, and some people love them. Some people I like the Rob Zombie ones, but other people
Mhm.
don't. And yeah, so
Very polarizing, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
But I like it too.
yeah. And what would you say, like now talking about like your top five, like what would be your top five horror films of all time?
So we said Evil Dead. Um, Martyrs is up there for me.
Okay.
Um, and I'm still trying to figure out why. But I just every time I watch that movie, it has a different effect on me emotionally, and so that's up there for me. The original, while we're talking about remakes, the original French Martyrs. Um, 28 Days Later comes to mind. I think my friends and I saw that, no joke, like 5 times in the theaters when it came out. Um, yeah, that one's special to me. Um, Tigers Are Not Afraid, which I talked about
Mm-hmm.
earlier by Issa Lopez. Um, and I'd say The Mist,
Okay.
I love. Yeah, I just really like that like dark, um, not always a happy
Happy
ending
Yeah, I
type
had
deal.
it. That's true. I had his revival too on Netflix. I saw it was like blowing up again. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because they released it, and I was like, I totally forgot about the ending. Honestly, like, I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't have a happy ending, which is
Uh,
fine.
yeah. Well, I went back and I had never read the novella that it's based on.
Hmm.
Um, that is also like Stephen King, you forget that he's just like the master of storytelling. It's so good.
Yeah.
It ends differently, but I guess he came forward afterward and said that he liked Frank Darabont's ending better than his. So I thought
Uh,
that was cool.
yeah, I think I
Because
remember seeing that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's five, right? We said Evil Dead, Tigers Are Not
Yes.
Afraid, Martyrs, The Mist, and 20 Days Later. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And 28 Days Later, I need to rewatch it because I was just talking about that with my friends. How like I feel like I kind of just watched it, even the sequel too. But I feel like the first one is the one that has like the huge cult following. I need to like watch it again because I don't think I appreciated it as much as like other people. Because I think I watched it like when I was young, so I think I gotta
Mhm.
watch it again. And then
Yeah.
you mentioned what was the other one? Martyrs. I need to watch that one. I haven't watched the original or the remake.
Yeah. Just have like a Disney movie ready to go.
I know I
You
heard
know,
it's like really like, and that's why I don't watch those type of films because I'm like not like it makes me mad a little bit. But I was like, oh, I'll watch it. I'll like have to, like you said, have something ready to watch afterwards.
Yeah, it took me a long time before I could revisit it. And then all of a sudden, the second time, it just like something clicked emotionally. And I don't know, it's tough because I understand why some people don't like certain types of horror movies.
Yeah.
I've seen people kind of like it's really taken aback by certain scenes in my film that I'm like, oh, that's so tame, like compared to the gore that I usually watch. It's
Yeah.
but everyone's got a different, threshold, and that's totally fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting how it works that way.
Yeah, it's like
But
The Last House on the Left, or like all those revenge porn films, or whatever you want to call, like the subgenre. But like I like
yeah,
it because it is satisfying when they get their just due. But then at the same time, it is like the core of the story where the either rape, to say the lack of better words, where that happens. As like it kind of obviously it pisses you off, but then I was like, okay, then they get the revenge. But it is kind of like a difficult thing, especially for
for
people that
sure.
have gotten, and maybe they're themselves like survivors of that. I'm like, yeah, that's like really hardcore. But I see why they
Yeah.
do them, because it is like therapeutic. I think I talked about that with on Land Horror with I forgot her name, but she's also a director, and she did a film about that. And I'm like, yeah, like how do you deal with that, like how to tackle that topic, because it is a tough one.
Yeah. And again, it's something where it takes you got to put your heart into it. Otherwise, it's just shock value, and
Exactly.
that sucks. I don't
Yeah.
like that either. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And what other movie recommendations would you have, like, as far as, like, you obviously said your top five, but like what other movies you feel like are slept on, especially like for the younger generation who probably haven't seen some of the older films? Like,
Mm.
what would you recommend?
I mean, if you haven't seen, if there are folks like younger, especially who haven't seen The Thing,
Oh yeah,
100%, like it still holds up. It's still so good. I don't know, that's my personal opinion.
I
But
agree.
there's some found footage stuff that's come out that you wouldn't think you'd think it's such a tired trope, but then when you see somebody do it well and in a new way, it's like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
like there's a movie called Horror on the High Desert.
Oh, I haven't seen that
Um
one.
oh, it's good. It's
Okay.
found footage. It came out, I think, 2020. It like
Okay.
showed up on Tubi, and it had this like underground following, and now it's starting to pick up steam again.
Oh, I'm gonna have to
It's
check it out.
good. Um, Host.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Is that the one
Yeah.
that was on Shutter? Is that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'd encourage you to actually watch it on your laptop. That's one where it's like I feel like it's specifically made kind of like that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I guess those are Night of the Living Dead, the original.
Oh yeah.
Again, like it holds up. It's so yeah, definitely give that a go. It's very poignant. It's very like current to like things that we're dealing with still. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good shit. And that's like the original, like of if Walking Dead would not exist, right, without
Exactly.
Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned The Thing, because that's another, we forget, but it's another remake too, because it was like, I forgot what the original movie was, like a black and white film. So
Right?
John
Yeah.
Carpenter's is a sequel. Yeah, or yeah, like
Mhm.
a, I guess like a reboot. Um,
Yeah. See, like I don't think most people even know that. So
yeah.
yeah.
And I also like to ask this sometimes, but like for you, talking about like, creepy stuff and stuff like that, have you ever had any like supernatural experiences yourself, or do you believe in the supernatural?
I definitely believe in it. I've only ever had one personal experience. I guess I've had a couple where it's like there's just an energy shift. There's just you sense that something is near,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's you know, energy can't be destroyed or created, right? So when people die like that, it goes somewhere, right? Whether it's a different
Yeah.
dimension or whatever, like, it doesn't have to be that like ooh, like crazy shit. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's one time I was closing out. I was a cocktail waitress at a comedy club, and it
Mhm.
was like way later than I'm ever usually there. I think it was like almost like 2 in the morning or something, and I was like by myself in the kitchen area at the computer, like finishing up, and I just felt like this presence behind me that was
Oh.
not friendly. That I just felt it was telling me like, get the fuck out. And I was like, noted, done, like I got out of there. And I don't know, it's like I don't think that anything was necessarily going to happen to me, but I got the idea that I was not wanted in that area. So that's the closest, and I'm good with that. I don't need, especially like you said, being raised Catholic, like there's a lot of superstition involved, and I don't need that. Like, I'm good with my one half ghost experience.
Yeah, that is kind of scary. Yeah, I don't really like. I'm also like a fan of horror stuff, but I tell my friends, I'm like, I don't mess around with the supernatural. I'm like, I'm good. Like, I don't need it.
We had I don't know if you remember, there's a Ouija board on set in my short. And I remember telling my my art department guy, I was like, the Ouija board is cool. I don't want a fucking planchette. I don't want like I don't mess with it. I just won't, like, no thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And then kind of switching it a little bit, because this is like a hip hop and horror podcast a little bit. So you being from New York, where, you know, hip hop was born, do you listen to hip hop? And if you do, what would be some of your like top favorite hip hop artists or albums of all time?
Oh, that's intense. It's funny, like my sister got me into Rico Nasty. I don't know if you.
Yes.
She's amazing. I adore her. I've obviously been into like, I like City Girls, like Meg Thee Stallion. I guess that's what I've been listening to more. Kendrick is big for me. Like, really good. I'm hoping to see him. They just announced the lineup for our big festival every year called Governor's Ball, and he's going to be headlining one of the nights.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. I guess that's like what I'm listening to right now. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. But what about like any, did you grow up with any like albums, like nostalgic albums that you remember?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Like Puff Daddy and the Family, like, like obviously that was after Biggie, but like so many moments of like being in that teenager where you know you had Biggie and you had Tupac, and it was such a golden era of like you know, that we'll never get back.
How was it? Because I mean, obviously over there is like, it's like the mecca of hip hop. Like for you, like, do you remember, like, do you have any moments of like growing up in like when hip hop was like so big at that time, or any like memories of going to like a concert or anything like that that stands out for you?
No, not really. It's more like the middle school dances. Where that's like the memories that I have of that music, and it brings it back every time. But no, especially because I grew up where I grew up, which was Syracuse, which is you know, not the city, but And to like, before we get out of here, I usually like to ask this question as far as like what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind, either creatively or on a personal level? So if one person leaves like a film festival thinking like, man, like felt like somebody made that just for me, like I didn't know I needed that, but like I'm so glad I had that experience at this film festival or what have you, like that would be cool with me, because that's my favorite type of experience too, especially if it's a short at a film festival where, you know, like like you're one of the few people that's gonna get to see it and experience it. It's such a magical I guess fragile, like that exists only in that time and that's it kind of thing. I'd be really happy if just one person was like fuck, I loved that, and like God, I needed that. That'd be fine with me.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, because I was watching, I don't know if you've seen, like, Rick Rubin just dropped like a book. It's like about the creative path, I think is what it's called. I can't remember, but he talked about, I think it's like the little premise on Amazon. It says how we're all creators, and then we're pretty much all creating something. We create something that wasn't there before, so we're creating out of nothing. And I thought it was cool how he said it, because he's pretty much saying that all of us have some sort of like creativity within us. Whether it's like moving a piece of furniture or whatever, like we changed what wasn't there or what didn't exist, which I was like, is cool. So like talking about like you creating like an art piece, a film that can, you know, relate to other people is really inspiring. And I hope like you keep doing it. I love the short film. So,
Okay.
I wish like more success to you, and I really thank you for being on here today.
Thank you for having me. And as far as you're talking about going into filmmaking, I would just like there's a story that Gabby has to tell that like somebody is waiting to hear. And so that's what I always think of, you know. It
Yeah.
like works both ways. So I look forward to seeing what you have in
Thank you.
store too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you again so much for being on. And before we get out of here, is there anything else you wanted to share or anything like that? I know, here, let me share your Instagram for those, Kristin Noriega.
Oh
Is
yeah.
there anything else you wanted to share or anything?
Um, that's it. I mean, I'd say it'll be another year before the short will be like up and able to watch on YouTube just because of the film festival rules and things like that. But
Okay.
I don't know, I'm really excited about where we're at with horror and like what's
Yeah.
happening. So
Yeah, no,
that's
keep
it.
it up. It's cool. Like I said, I don't believe in like the female, male directors, but it's cool to see another, a perspective from the lens of a woman, So it's
Sure. Yeah.
cool to like see you, and I get inspired because I'm like trying to do the same thing. So, like I said, keep doing what you're doing, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone,
Right.
for tuning in for another episode of Nightmare on Sedgwick Avenue. That was Kristin Noriega. Thank her again for being on this podcast and, sharing her insight on filmmaking, acting, and just sharing her story. And like I said, hopefully she keeps inspiring with her filmmaking or wherever she ends up doing next. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel here at 7 Octoberz. Also on all social media, I'm under 7 October. So appreciate any likes, sharing, commenting, all that is appreciated. It helps me a lot. And thank you guys. Hope you guys tune in to the next one. Peace.